Well, old Honky-Tonk Bud, the hip cat stud, he stood watching the game of pool. Now he was leaning against the wall as the house racked the balls. Old Bud was looking real cool. Choked up tight in a white on white with his hoes gathered all around. He had a peppermint striped tie running down to his fly, and he was sporting a gold dust crown. It was the 15th frame of a 9-ball game, and old Bud, he stood watching the play. With an idle shrug, he turned and dug a really strange cat coming his way. It was a funny built cat in a funny style hat that looked to be 9 years old. In a wrinkled up vine and needing to shine, and he was shivering as if he was cold. Now as he moved in close, his nose kept running and water dripped from his eyes. Honky-Tonk's pen as the stud moved in and measured him up for size. Now all the other studs except for Honky-Tonk Bud, they took him for an ordinary flunky. But through well-trained eyes and many past highs, old Bud took the stud for a junkie. Honky-Tonk grinned as the stud moved in and asked if he knew Crow. For Crow wasn't around, he had been gunned down less than a week ago. Now the stud looked drugged like he was bugged when he heard that Crow was gone. But behind that, Bud knew where he was at. He was sick and wanted to get on. But since you look like you sick and may need a fix, I can do a solid for you. I'm Honky-Tonk Bud, the hip cat stud from over on 8th Avenue. Now if you want a cop, then let's talk shop. I will even help you score. But you will need a bill, cause the deal's wholesale, and that's the only connection I know. Now the stud, he looks down in the halfway frown as though trying to make up his mind. Well, I got the bread, but I'm leery, he says. I'm looking for the best I can find. Now before I spend all my ends, this shit's got to be dynamite. Cause there's 2 other cats that got loot in his hat, and they won't let me out of their sight. Now if you cop a bag and the stuff's no drag, I will get you to cop some more. But we need a load to take on the road. We're traveling boosters, you know. Bud hesitated, he'd underestimated, he thought he would make a big sting. But the dude was no dummy, wouldn't go for the funnest, so Bud had to cop the real thing. Bud says I can get you a lease on a real nice piece and you can save your ends. First you try, then you buy, I'll fix you up real nice, my friend. Now you wait in the store until I score, I won't be gone for long. Bud showed quick for he was also sick and they went to his crib to get on. Bud unwrapped 2 spikes he had strapped to a holster above his knee, poured some smack from a 10-4 pack and they both rolled up their sleeves. Cooked just a taste on a kitchen match blade, Bud told the stud to take it slow, because this stuff is potent enough to knock anybody's dick on the floor. Now the stud, he grew tired from trying so hard to make a righteous hit. When the stud hit red, the hip cat said, man, this is some dynamite shit. Now they both shot that thing, even smoked a little cane before Bud went into his dip. That's when the stud looked around, his Bud nodded down with slob dripping from his lip. Conversation was a drag, chins began to sag. That's when Bud says, ooh wee, I am high. That's when the stud made a pass, flashed out of bed to say, oops, Bud, I'm the FBI. Now the courtroom was packed, for old Bud had been cracked. All the whores and hustlers were there. Those that knew him, the agent that screwed him, and all those who just came to stare. There was Sweet Draws Lucy, looking all juicy, half-head and Stumble Joe Blue, Wimpy the Grinner, the Good Trick Finner, Stick Pin and Tuck Titty Sue. There was Jojo the Rabbit, the hustler's girl's habit, who was out trying to get him some more. Brennis Lane and Player Kane come barging through the door. That well-known fella, Scotty the Teller, old dum-dum with 2 marked chicks, 90 proof Mary, sweet thing Jerry, Betty and Speakeasy Nick. There was Cooper McPhear, the storekeeper Terry with Pretty Bop and his Junebug act, Whiskey Top Ed, who's crazy in the head, plus with a Ronnie the Mac. Lean as could be was his lady Shirley, who had just come to think. She was real shy, looking all fly, playing a 3-piece me. Lump Rump Fanny, Turbo Annie, Booty the Gambling Queen, Veronica Rocker, the 2-bit doctor, they all came down to say, Honky-Tonk Bud, the hip cat stud, please do not send him away. Give him a play, said that Moore man Toles-Bey, he was only trying to survive. If he takes this fall, he'll feel real small and that would truly hurt his pride. Then all eyes right to a hell of a sight as Treaty McKnight stepped in sporting a cashmere vine, while a professional killer named Murdering Sam Miller guarded the man from behind. Now the dope houses were closed, there weren't any whores, and crime was at a shocking decrease, while the precinct books stayed on their hooks, and for hours there hadn't been a bus. The phone didn't beep, the dispatcher fell asleep, and the proud car was raising a fuss. Bud stood cool and unshaken as the cold oath was taken while the charges were read by the clerk. Then old Judge Stern, who's known to be firm, started the trial with a smirk. Now let us proceed. How do you plead to these indictments of selling junk? Well, not guilty, say Bud, the hip cat stood. The charges were Trump from the jump. Now the DA, Paula Gray, she presented the case, and the agent involved took the stand, while he told in detail how he got in the cell, and that Bud was a big-time man. He's got an ad machine mind, wears $900 vines, drives a caddy as long as a train. He might act like a squirrel, but he's pimping young girls and is the master of a confidence game. Purvis Spence, the hip cat's defense, was known as the all-time great. In the palm of his hand lay Bud's 10 grand and also the threads of his fate.
Well, I can't beat it, he said, as he counted Bud's bread. That's a fact you might as well face. Edgar J. Peagan, the narco agent, why he's built up an airtight case. Your record's too long, and that game, it's too strong. I can't buy a break nowhere. The jury's picking's done, I can't get to no one, and the lab technicians won't buy. The DA is scared and won't take the bread, and Bud, you just don't buy the FBI. I've tried other things, my political strings, but the word is hands off, no can do. I'm sorry, Bud, but that's the rub. They're out to make an example out of you.
Now these were the facts as the DA attacked the character of Honky-Tonk Bud. The hustler slurs as they heard his name smirged, trampled and dragged through the mud. But all the while, through the storm of the trial, Honky-Tonk said with a smile. Now the jury went out for a 12-hour bout, and in timing, a foreman named Hodge, so gravely concerned, announced on return the defendant is guilty as charged. The hustlers yelled flame, called the jurors some names, a few even voiced some threats. Then old Judge Stern, who's known to be firm, banged for order with his mallet. The hustlers quailed as a sudden hush fell, so silent in wonder it sounded like thunder when the judge cleared his throat and asked Bud by vote, does the defendant have anything to say? Well, I do say, Bud, the hip cat stood, before you send me away. Now, I ain't crying cause the agent is lying and left you all with this notion that I'm a big wheel in the narcotic field, and I do hope he gets that promotion. Well, I knew from the jump you were holding the trumps when you wouldn't let my lawyer object. A fact is a fact and a stack is a stack, and I couldn't make you shuffle the deck. Now I'll get a full load cause I stayed to the code. You will make an example of me, while some drunken villain runs over your children, pays a small fine and goes free. But all the same, it's all in the game. I knew when I sat down to play. I took on the odds and you dealt the low cards, but this is the price I must pay. But here's a note for your reporters to quote. And Bud took his time with a big grin and said, but those of you who know me can tell him for sure, this is the same kind of grin when I win.